Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Future Stars Now. I am the host, the Ritt. I will not be Mr. Mike Freland on with me tonight. He has other issues to attend to, but man, we have a great guest lined up here on this Friday edition. And well, me and this guest, we go back many years, where he did a little training, helped out, and well, we're gonna bring him in right now. He is the El Mastodon. What's going on, Rosh? How you been?
El Mastodon, what's happening, my friend? What's going on?
Man, not much. Man,
Pretty
it's
good,
been a while since.
it's starting to warm up out there a little bit, so yeah, man.
Oh man, I can't wait. I remember when I know you and I met, and it was warm out all the time, and you were at the ring I had set up outside, helping train. Getting some ring rust off yourself, and here you are. Almost 10 years
It was
later,
awfully
and
nice to
still.
have a ring that close to home.
Oh yes, and you always were willing to help out everybody, uh, you know, and now look at you. You're still going strong. You look phenomenal, shape. And so what
Thank
have
you.
you been doing during the pandemic, post pandemic? How's everything been going for you?
Things have been going pretty well. Been pretty fortunate to not really have any major issues. My family's been pretty healthy. There was a little scare there for a bit with my dad, but everyone's healthy, so you can't ask for much more than that. I was working down in Mount Airy, North Carolina when the pandemic hit. I was in the steel building business, and it was kind of weird because like my whole family's up here in PA, and they didn't really encourage a whole lot of travel, and I got like really super isolated because I
Hmm.
didn't really have a whole big active network of friends, and plus everybody was all boarded up indoors anyway, so there wasn't really a whole lot going on, and I just kind of I think I was talking to Trotsky one day. I was like, I kind of miss this stuff. And I moved back home back last January. I got laid off because as things during a pandemic do, offices closed down.
Hmm.
So I took a layoff and I came home. And I got re-involved at the sanctuary again with Trotsky, helping get everything set up and running again. And you don't leave the business. It just keeps floating around in you, and as soon as you're around it, you're back in it. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. I've been getting out and about again, trying to travel as much as possible, just enjoy the best of it. Make the most of what I got.
Yeah, we actually had on one of your traveling companions, and part-time tag team partner, Johnny Moran.
Oh, Johnny Moran, the old dark
Yes.
horse.
So, what's it like tag
He's
teaming with him?
I've been doing a lot of tag work with Johnny Moran. He's neurotic. Um, he's Johnny Moran. He's Captain Vanilla. Um, I always joke with him that like in the dessert world he's like a vanilla ice cream cone. It's like technically yeah it's dessert, but it's a little it's all right. It's just
Bland.
vanilla. Whereas like I'm like Rocky Road and throw some gummy worms in there and like probably way too much flavor. So it's a weird little blend. And then you put us together. We bicker a lot. I make fun of him. He makes fun of me. Um, but we've been able to take that little shtick up and down the New England here. Been pretty blessed with some opportunities for some open doors for a couple old men like us to still go out there and show the crowd a good time and keep rocking and rolling.
So what's it like in the car with him? Are you the one that's driving and he's the one with the tunes, or is it vice versa? Or
Usually I don't nobody likes my driving. I think Luca Mancini is about the only one that's like I'll ride with you, no problems, man, because I'm like all over the place, one hand driving, talking on my phone. I'm an old train wreck. Johnny's a neat freak and a control freak, so like he's got to drive. He's got to be his car. Uh, it's just got to be his way. He's directing traffic. He's got to quarterback the whole thing. Usually, if it's just the two of us, I'll sit there and agitate him the whole way. If it's like a carload, I sit in the back and sleep. I pull the whole, I'm an old man, I'm gonna sleep in the back seat card. Absolutely. Um, I've survived this long. I get to play that card, right?
Yeah. So let's start back in the beginning. A lot of people sit there and say that what got you into the wrestling business, parents, grandparents, a lot of people say. So what got you started, watching and liking professional wrestling?
Um, I wasn't exactly the most popular kid in school. Everybody knew me. I was a bit of a character. I've always been a bit of a, showman, um, carny, huckster, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also really big. I'm really big. You guys know this. Like, I'm a large human being. And I never really fit in anywhere. We didn't have football in my high school, so like I couldn't capitalize on my size there. I wrestled in high school, but I always had to cut weight to make heavyweight, which was always ridiculous to me. So it was like hard to find a place to fit in, and I just kind of stumbled across WCW when I was like 14, and I saw Raven's Flock, and I was like, if these schlubs can do this, because they're all wearing the street gear and everything, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
if these schlubs can do this, I gotta be able to at least have a shot at this. And then I just kind of found my way to the Wild Simone Training Center, and I've been like a wet booger ever since. Like I come and go, but I'm always stuck on them.
So
And
you said
my family's not even really big on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what do the parents think, about you doing this, or what do they think when you said, "Hey, I want to give this a try"?
When I was in high school and I wanted to do it, they kind of just rolled their eyes at it. We're like, all right, whatever, go to college, go do something for real, for real. And I did all that, and then I took a break for a while. I was in the ministry. I was doing concert promoting and band tour management. Um, and then I ended up back in wrestling again about 2012. And then they were like, you're a grown ass man. Like I was like in my late 20s, like you're a grown ass man. You shouldn't be doing this. I was like, I got to relive this. I didn't feel like I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve, and I was in for a few more years, and then I just fell into responsibility and started a career. And I think they were all like, oh, good, he's done with that. And then
Mm-hmm.
isolation breakdown, back in wrestling again. And I think at this point they're just like, whatever, just I'm
Hey,
gonna be 39 next week. I think at this point they're just like, his house is paid for, he doesn't have responsibilities, let him go. Let me do
hey,
my
hey, third time's a charm. So,
That's
and
right.
and
That's right.
and look at you now. You're traveling up and down the whole, New England states, and you got yourself a
Yeah,
career
we're getting
going.
getting some miles on, getting some good miles on for an old man. Still making, and the best thing is I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I dropped about 200 pounds over the last 2.5 years, and I'm in better shape now than I was when I was in high school. So it's like out of any time that I've been in the ring, this has actually been the best I've been as far as, physically. And I'm still, working on improving that every day. But um, I just, it just, it's what I want to do. It's what I feel right doing. And until the wheels fall off, I'm gonna keep doing it.
So you sit there and said you were trained at the Wild Samoan Center. Well, was that early with it was Pops, or was that a little bit later when Appa took over? No, Sammy. Sammy took over.
When I first started training, it was with Pops. That was in 2001. But I had been around WXW and the company. I had helped Pops in the office for a few years prior to that. doing websites and promotional work for him. And then later on, when I came back in 2012, I trained under Sam. So like I got the benefit of both.
So working with Pops in the beginning, tell us a little bit about how he conducted training. Did he let you guys get in the ring right away, or did you have to, the old school way of earn your way into the ring?
So before you could even get in the ring, you had to make it through several layers of what felt like nothing less than hell. And realistically speaking, at this point in time, you've got probably 30 to 40 new people showing up every week, right? So you kind of have to separate the pretenders from the contenders. And you can do a lot of that with a lot of cardio. So I had Supremely Great and Tommy Suede as like trainers running our cardio, and they were not any kinder to me because I was a young kid than anybody else. They beat the tar out of me. They ran my guts out, and it was all for the better. You had to earn your way into that ring, and then once you got in the ring, all you're gonna do is bump. You're just gonna bump and get beat up. You're gonna learn how to move around in that ring. A lot of guys are coming and be like, "Hey, when do we learn to throw suplexes?" It's like, yeah, well, come back in a couple months when you develop some calluses across your back, and we'll talk. So we had to earn our way in, and I always do things the hard way anyway. So it was a lot of bumps and bruises and concussions and dislocated shoulders and you name it, I've run into that wall.
Yeah, I remember going up to WXW with a couple friends of mine and seeing them train and 500 body squats, in a row, then, running the stairs. And it's like, dude, like, I couldn't do it. I would have quit. The body squats, maybe, but man, just the right afterwards, we're running the stairs. And then I seen them do running the stairs with a partner on your back, and it's like, man. But there's a rhyme and reason, like you said, because back then, that was when wrestling schools were hot, and you had to 30 people.
We were in the middle of the Attitude Era, and everybody wanted to be Stone Cold.
Yep, and you had 30 people showing up, and you can't have 30 Stone Colds. No, you got to sit there and, okay, who's going to stick it out? And those people will get the privilege of getting in the ring. But it's not, cakewalk. Pops' ring wasn't the cushioniest rings out there either, not compared to my old ring that I had,
No, Pops had an old 20 by 20 WrestleMania ring.
So it's, and a lot of people sit there and think it's just a big trampoline. It's, sometimes there's cables underneath, but you got the bars, going back and forth. You have the wood. You've got maybe 1.5 inches of foam and the canvas. That's it. So, even if you sit there and get in the ring, the bumping sometimes kills you itself. Running the ropes is another thing I heard from people, that it's just painful if you don't do it correctly. So, what was
when I first started with Pops? We had the ropes, and it.
Oh, go ahead.
The ropes would just, I don't know. There was just something about them. They were. It was always an adventure because, like, you knew that those suckers had been, had their miles beat into them, and they hurt a different way. And then, you start to transition to these newer style rings where, they're using the wire, the cable ropes, and that takes a whole while to get used to, and it's just constantly re-exposing your body to these different performance surfaces, and none of them are kind. You know, that old ring that we trained in at WXW is now the stage at the sanctuary. You know, we don't even use it as a ring anymore. Um, and it's still a stiff bump, you know.
Hmm. So, going
But I
through
love
the
all the
bump.
changes that are happening though for safety purposes. There's definitely things we can do to make sure guys are living a better quality of life for the long haul.
Oh yeah, because Jerry and Mikey always talk about the bump card. You only get so many bumps in
Hmm.
your career before you know it's time to cash that last check and hang up the boots. So you got to learn to take care of your body and you know do the best thing for you in your career because it can be shortened dramatically. So, but now you went and talked about
Absolutely, you know, it can be gone at any moment.
you go and talk about the bumps you were taking. Uh, so what was it like when you first learned to put a match together and get out there in front of the crowd for the first time?
A giant blur, a giant blur. When I put my first match together in 2002, we tried to be as basic as possible because it was the first one. Um, it's just a giant blur. I think I spit out like three moves I wanted to do. I finished it with the DDT. Um, I'm sure it wasn't spectacular. I'm glad that
Uh,
there's not footage of 2002 era stuff like there is now. Like these kids all have cell phones. All the embarrassing matches exist on YouTube. Not mine, thank goodness. Just my
so
new
okay,
embarrassing ones.
so you sit there and you're talking about you're glad that it wasn't out there. A lot of people when they're done with their match nowadays, if they say or they don't, they get on Twitter, they get on YouTube, they get on Instagram, and they're checking out the comments. When you're done with a match nowadays, is that something you go right back to do? Check out comments, post it, a little bit video clips, or what do you do?
Uh, It kind of depends on the circumstance. It depends on how I felt about the match. It depends on if there needs to be, like, for me, everything comes back to forward motion. So, what are we promoting as we're moving forward? And if I have a need to, like, if there's a really cool spot that just needs to be put out there, cool, I'll put it out there. But like, I'm not running home and going, all right, let me clip that. Nah, like, if something magical happens, I'll share it. But you know, most of the time, it's just like if I'm gonna run one back with someone, I'll pull some video footage up and work it in there. But I'm not like super obsessed with throwing them. Like I'll promote, but I don't throw all my stuff out there after the fact. Once in a while, yeah. If I'm bored sitting on my computer, I might piece some things together. But I got a highlight video if you want to see it. It's pinned at the top of my Facebook page. I usually go to Twitter just to like yell into the big angry void. You know.
Yeah. So we sit there and we're at WXW. You're working there for a while. Uh, there's a lot of great talent that went through there. So did any can you name a few people that pulled you to the side and was like, hey, you're a big guy, try this compared to doing stuff like this, work like the typical big man how they're supposed to, or did you just kind of like sit back and just do your own little thing?
I did a lot of observational work, but Samu really helped me. The guys that initially trained me were not versed in working the big man style, and they taught me a lot of things outside of my wheelhouse. But it wasn't until Sam really got a hold of me that I learned a little bit more how to walk and talk and act like a larger human being. because I never really felt as big as I am. I always felt like I was the underdog that had something to prove, whereas I'm usually the biggest guy in the room, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'd have to say Sam, and then Trotsky. Trotsky helped me a lot with kind of dialing in on some things. Um, Usually begrudgingly, we fight about just about everything. But every once in a while, he gets a good nugget across for me, and you know it'll resonate. Sometimes it might not resonate for a couple weeks, but yeah, those guys have really helped me out. But on a tape study, there's no excuse now to not do extensive tape study. You know, we have access to so much digital, or you know, digital media. I wish we had this when I was growing up. I wish we had access to these entire libraries. You know, all we had before was whatever you could tape trade. You know, six
Hmm.
hours of a VHS clip at a time. Um, I spent a lot of time just watching how other big men work and see what do they do differently compared to everybody else. And then some of it's just logic and makes sense. It's physics, you know, a little bit of geometry.
Yeah, I remember when you were using my ring back in the day. You used to get a couple of the big guys and be like, the long drawn out punch, and then to make it seem like you're putting more power behind it and stuff. It's a lot of the small things that people need to extend on and put more details in that will make people and make the match more
I think
believable.
H.C. Loke said it best. I think H.C. Loke said it best when he said that wrestling's not the moves that you do, it's what happens between them. And I don't know if that was a borrowed quote from somebody else, but that's the man that I heard it from. And it's the truth. Nuance is everything. The little things matter so much and almost so much more than the big things.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
it's real easy to drift away from that. And once you come back to it, every time you come back to it, it brings the magic back.
Yeah, I remember watching a video with Regal training people, and he was like, "Okay, how do you get the person from the corner to the middle of the rope? You're not just going to walk them there. No, you're going to sit there and you're going to hit them.
Mhm.
You're going to run their face across the ropes to get them to the next position where you want them to." He goes, "You got to make it believable, and the small things is what people will pay attention to, and will make the story complete when you're in the ring." So, but now what made
At
you?
its current, I see we're in a little lag here, I think.
Yeah, we're in a small lag, it seems. Okay, you're back there. You there?
Yep, there we are. All right. I think it froze for a second. If it might be good now.
No. Okay, but continue what you're saying then.
Um, you know, you hear a lot of the guys complaining about how the business has changed, and it really has. But the storytelling's adapted a little bit, just in a way to become a little bit more digestible to culture. And I think keeping alive the old tradition, nuance, and the I don't want to say flashiness, spideyness, because that like almost at this point sounds denigrating. But that new indie pop style, I think there's a happy balance between them. I think there's room for everybody at that table. I love seeing what things are coming together and how wrestling has evolved, even the 20 years since I started. It's just an exciting time. And then right now, there's so much cool shit. I'm sorry, there's so much cool stuff happening. It's difficult to go a weekend without at least having one really good show floating around somewhere on TV. Seeing all kinds of new talent from all over the world, all over the country. Kids just kicking it up. It's really cool. It's really fun to be out there, and it's really fun to be a part of all this.
Yeah, I kind of wish when I was younger that they had Fight, they had IWTV, because man, I get notifications all the time about all this indie show's on, or this indie show, this happened, that. Man, if we had that 20 years ago, man, just think of, like you said, we wouldn't have been tape trading. All you had to do was, get online and click and pull up a match, pull up a show, and that's how a lot of people get their names out there now, because people might not know who they are, but next thing you know, they're sitting there watching an indie show, and they're like, man, let me check this guy out. Then you go to the great YouTube and pull up some matches, and next thing you know, they're going to the show watching you. So, but man,
It all starts somewhere. It's the
yeah,
easiest time to
but yeah,
it's the
you sit there
easiest
and
time to start watching as a fan. It's the easiest time to get your material out there as a performer. It's just a magical time for pro wrestling, and if you want to be a part of this on one side of the barricade or the other, this is the easiest time to get involved, and it's exciting.
yeah. So, uh, you said you managed or you were a tour manager for a band. Let's take a little step away from wrestling for a minute. How did that come about? And what was that like for you, being on the road with a band?
Well, I fall into things. Just randomly by chance, I happen to fall into things. I had gotten involved with them with ministry through my church, and through the church, I started working outreach with the I guess Columbia, Montour, Bloomsburg, Berwick, Danville area kids, and I
Hmm.
ran concerts. I basically ran like little hardcore shows for kids that really didn't have a place to fit in. You know, um, So we just kind of made that place. It's just at least some place that kids can come be safe, catch a show. We ran a lot of our shows out of a coffee shop, and then I met a lot of bands through that, and made some relationships and some friendships, and got invited to go along touring with one of the bands. Um, got to tour regionally with some smaller bands. Drive a bus halfway across the country is always a good time. So I spent from about 2005 to 2009 doing that. And then I hopped into the tattoo shops, and I was never a tattoo, I was never an artist. But I used to manage and run the counter and book the appointments, just basically help out because I was there anyway. That's where all this stuff comes from. So I just kind of jumped from pro wrestling culture to ministry culture to, hardcore metalcore music culture to tattoo culture, and then back to wrestling culture. I just kind of fall into things and fall out of things, and my life has definitely been a strange journey.
Well,
I'm blessed.
if you think about it, pro wrestling, music, tattoos, shops, they're all kind of intertwined. The backstage scene, the in front, the entertainment value, the rush of the crowd. It's all intertwined, and it's all that adrenaline rush some people just go for.
There's something with the live audience, and I'll tell you, when I did ministry work too, it's all the same. All of it's all the same. But being in front of a crowd that generates an electricity, right? And then when people are feeling things, and people feel wrestling, and they feel music, and they feel spiritual situations. Um, when you can get a large group of people vibrating like that, it just creates this crazy. And I know anyone that's watching this thinks I'm nuts. Just trust me on this. I feel it, right? Like I'm a junkie for it. I'm like a fly to or a moth to a flame. You know, I'm like a fly to a turd. I just gravitate to where that is. I want to be a part of it. I want to help produce it. I want to feel it, and it's magic. And I call it wrestle drugs when it's in the ring, because there's special moments where you can really start to feel it. It's like, oh, there's the wrestle drugs. That's what we do this for. That's the good stuff. Um, I think that's why I just keep getting pulled into these different directions. Is feeling that and the ability to tell stories. I love telling stories.
Yeah, man, you sit there and think about that wrestle drug. Like a couple moments, in wrestling history come to mind when you sit there and say wrestle drug that I think of. Rock Hogan at WrestleMania. Before they even laid a hand on each other, when they were face to face doing the stare off, and that crowd was electric. The goosebumps, just this past year, CM Punk coming back, everybody knew it, but you don't know how you're going to react until that actually happened.
Didn't matter.
And then as soon as Cult of Personality hit, that crowd, electric. CM Punk didn't even said it in an interview afterwards. He did not know, had zero idea what the fans were going to be like because he was away for so long. But people live for that moment.
Creating moments like that is everything, and that's really what this is all about. And maybe there's some egotistical drive with wrestlers to really want to be a part of those moments and creating those moments. But that is what we do. It's all about creating memories and moments and imparting this lasting impression on someone. And it's almost like the exchange currency rate is getting to feel that pushback from them. It's just great. It's just great. I love doing it. It's just built into me at this point.
Yeah, to sit there and have that give and take with the fans. The fans know you want it, and if you're a face, if you're a heel, man, if the heel, you do not want to hear silence, because that would kill your buzz. You want them. MJF, he knows exactly what the fans want to hear and what they don't want to hear, and he just eats it up when the crowd's booing him. After touring, you decided to get back into wrestling a little bit. Back in 2012, you said you're training with Sammy, and
yes, sir.
What was that like, getting that ring rust knocked off you for the first? What was Sammy a little bit easier on you than Pops was?
Listen, that there's no easy with that family. They don't give away anything for free. Okay.
No.
But Sam, when I went back, it was special for me because I had two buddies that wanted to go down and train, and I kept saying, "I'll take you down. I'll introduce you to Sam, but I'm not doing this again. That was in my past. I'm done with it. I'm not doing it." So I get down there, and my buddy Frank, Frank the Tank Curry, he wrestled for a couple of years around here. He's 6'5", 300 pounds, grilled diesel, probably like 6.5% body fat, just a Schuylkill Valley knucklehead. And my buddy Johnny Priest, Johnny Vegas, he's like 6'1", broad shoulders. These guys both look like pro wrestlers. And I brought him in, and Sam's eyes got like this big, and three really big guys coming in. And he comes over and he's like, "Hey, when you coming back?" And I was like, "All right, I guess I'm coming back on Tuesday with Frank." Like I didn't really intend to, but it just felt right. So with Sam, there was always more of a camaraderie. Like I respect the living hell out of him, but Like I look at him and when I talk to him, it's a camaraderie. It's just this respectful, brotherhood, and um, it was really like that. Getting my feet wet again that time. So much had happened from when I left that
Mm-hmm.
I just really basically had to start over. I just basically had to start over from scratch, and that's what we did. And then coming back this time was just like I just needed, 2 sessions to get my head out of my ass, and then we were good to go. And then it was just been slowly rebuilding everything. Now, how can we do better than we were before? Um,
Yeah.
it's all transitional.
But when I would talk to pops and stuff, it's just with them, it's different. That once you're in your family, and
Yeah.
pops always treated anybody and everybody from the guy selling at the concessions to the person that he put in the main event with the same respect. And I always loved that about him. You know, uh, the whole family treats respect as the top thing. Once you earn it and once you get it, you're there for life. So, and now look at you. You've been through with pops, you've been through with Sammy, and now like you said, it only took you 2 sessions to get all the ring rust knocked off it, and now you hit the floor running, and you got a great tag team partner in Mr. Vanilla, and you're traveling around, and it's you've come a long way from when I even known you last time, you know, and
Thank you.
uh, well, traveling in the ring with different opponents. So what exactly do you look for in a match that you can go back and say that was a really good match? Like, can you name a couple opponents you've had that the chemistry was there and it clicked right away?
Um, recently, I'll tell you, I've worked this kid like I think going on 6 times now. We worked together 5 times. I think we're going on six here in a couple weeks. Aaron Roxas. He's from Backbreakers up in Scranton.
Hmm.
I'll be honest, that the first time they said I was going to work him, I wasn't quite sure how like I knew him, I knew the kid, but I wasn't quite sure
Hmm.
how our chemistry would line up, and we ended up actually having a really good match. What I felt was a really good match, and that's typically how I judge. Um, I know, I know coming out of, I know before that match is over whether or not that was a good one or a piece of dog crap, and I felt good all the way through that match. And then sometimes you feel like it was a good one, and then you watch it back on video. I'm always going to be someone that shreds my work to pieces. Nobody can rip my stuff apart worse than I can. I think that just comes from, where I come from. Um, it's just the way I've always been. But Aaron Roxas and I had some really good chemistry, and then we've had a couple really good ones since. Um, I had a good time working with Mike Skyros and Blackstrom up in Boston at UFO Wrestling. I would love to work with those guys again. We had some pretty decent chemistry. We had a lot of fun. Um, JS Hawthorne from the Sanctuary. That's almost cheating because he's my training partner. Usually on Tuesday nights, he and I are dancing around the Sanctuary, beating the tar out of each other, walking out with black eyes and busted lips. But if you called me up tomorrow morning and said, "Hey, you're working Schultz tonight," I'd be all right with it. I could I could walk in without calling anything with him, and we'd be okay. Um, but I've had a chance to work a lot of guys all over the place, a lot of different opponents. Some have been some really stellar ones. Some have been less than stellar. Whenever you're working new people, you run into those risks. But generally speaking, there's so much good talent in this area that it's hard to really. unless you go looking for it, it's hard to stumble into a cow pie, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm. Man, just think of the promotions you have, and just to name a few, WXW, PPW out of the Scranton area, ECWA. You got uh, let's see, you got Pro Wrestling Magic. They've come a long way. You got a lot of great companies in the area that can only get better. And to name a company, what would you say your favorite one is? And we'll keep WXW out of it. Uh, that had the you walked in there and the locker room was just everybody was getting along. The chemistry was all there, and it was just a great bunch of people there.
so we won't count WXW or the Sanctuary because I consider those, my home promotions.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed working with Titan. I've really enjoyed working with Titan Championship Wrestling in the Bayville, Toms River area.
Hmm.
Um, with Steve Mack and Magic, Preacher, and of course Charlie and formerly Billy. Like they've just been really solid to me since I just kind of showed up with Moran one day and they just immediately put me to work and they've given me some opportunities. In fact, I'll be back there on March 12th. Myself and Chris Barton will be facing Big Jeff Noyes and the Atomic Dog, and we're gonna see if we can break a ring. Um, but yeah, there's been a few other fun promotions. NYCW's been a good time. UFO has been fun. Um, but I'm just trying to get out there as much as possible, trying to go as many different places. I've noticed that there's different flavors of promotions even, and I call me a piggy, but I want to try them all. Throw me in with some hard hitters, I'll hit hard. Throw me in with some goofballs, I'll be a goofball. I just, like I said, I'm 39. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to continue to do this. So I want to try to do as many crazy, weird things as possible. I'm probably going to do some stupid things this year and next year for sure. Um, I just kind of know it all, man.
Matt, well, just sit there and you're in the best shape of your life right now. Your bump card because you took time off in between. You haven't racked up that many bumps. You're in a tag team with Mr. Vanilla, but you do 3/4 of the work. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Uh,
he's gonna hate he's gonna hate that I said that. He's gonna absolutely
ma-
hate that I said that.
ma-
I'm okay with
man,
it.
well, you should rib him one time. You should get to the promoter, the sound guy, and be like, before we come out, play a Vanilla Ice song, and then he will
Vanilla
be
Ice.
because he's Mr. Vanilla. So that would
He's the Vanilla
be one
Frosty,
heck
my friend.
that would be one heck of a rib that you could put on him. So where do you want to see yourself? What name a few promotions you want to get into by the end of 2022?
I have an end goal in sight of I would like to find my way to the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm sorry, National Wrestling, yeah, NWA Association Alliance. It's the NWA. It's the freaking NWA.
Yes.
Why would you not want to be there? Um, or MLW is another one that I feel like I could show out on. Um, but I know that being the ripe young age of 39, my options are going to be limited. But I
Hmm.
just kind of want to get, like I said, I want to see as far as I can go. I'd love to travel. I'd love to go to Europe at some point. I'd love to get the rest of my teeth knocked out of me in the UK. Um, Wherever and whenever. I just want to go and do as much and see as much as possible. Experience life to its fullest.
Hey, that's a wrestling dream right there. Go wherever you can. Learn as much as you can, teach as much as you can, and see the memories hold. Let's talk opponents. I want you to give me 5 people you never worked in the Northeast that you would love to get in the ring with. Tag team or singles?
Oh, tag team or singles that I have never been in the ring with yet.
Yes,
Um,
but you think you would have a stellar match with them.
Wrecking Ball Legursky, without hesitation, is at the top of my list.
Okay.
Um, Big man can go. Um, I'm going to be tagging with the kid, but I would love to stand across the ring from Chris Barton. I would absolutely love to mug him. That would be a fun time. Um,
Hey, at the end of the match,
I have,
sucker, you could always sucker punch him and start a program right there.
it's pro wrestling. You never know what's going to happen. There's only one
You
way to find
you
out.
you
That's
never
to be
know.
there on March 12th. Um, man, I'm thinking Lucky 13. We've been friends for a long time. I'd love to work with Lucky. I don't know if I have the cardio to work with Lucky. Um, but if he wants to get caught in my orbit and run circles around me and just let me punch him, that'd be fine. Um, I've never wrestled off a junior. Um, that would be fun. Just again because of the family tie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I got to work Sam. I got to work Lance. I never got to work off a junior. Um, man, I'm looking for house fights. Give me the big guys. Juan Vargas. Give me Juan Vargas. He's one of the Creative Pro guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think yeah, yeah. Give me Juan Vargas. This is Bob Culture's fault, by the way. This is Bob from the Culture podcast brought it up to me one day, and I wasn't familiar with who Vargas was, and
Mm-hmm.
then I became familiar. Yeah, give me Vargas. Yeah,
Well,
those would be the guys. Is that 4 or 5?
that's all 5 right there. So no, that's a great
There
list,
we go. Hoss
especially
fights.
for the Northeast. I would love to see you and Opera Junior go at it. I see him plenty of times. Him and Mike Orlando at PPW. You know, just all out brawls, and you know the family history you have
Do
there.
you remember the
You know,
series of Alpha Junior and Snitsky brawls that were going on there for a couple years?
yes,
Um,
just
Around that same time that I was back. Ah, those were fun. Those were fantastic. Or the now this is really old ones is the Hungarian Barbarian, Big Dick Dudley. They were tagging against Sam and Lloyd, LA Smooth. Those were some barn burners too. See, I grew up on stuff like that. I grew up on the Moondogs 2000, the Hit Squad. I love me a good old brawl, and the more of them, the merrier. Put me in house
well,
fights, please.
that there is going to lead to the question that we love to ask every guest. It is the hot tub time machine, where
Hot tub time machine.
you you can go back into time to any point in pro wrestling, take somebody out of a match, and we're putting you in the match. What match is it and why?
Oh, oh,
Yes. This is the SATs
oh.
of pro wrestling podcast questions.
Mm.
Well, we've had numerous answers, and
All right.
there's not a wrong answer.
There's a couple that popped into my mind, but there's one. And again, we're going back in time, right? This is like me now replacing them then,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Um, swap me and Gary Albright out of his last match. Don't put him in the ring, and he's still here. That's my swap. I was ringside. I shot that match. Swap me and Gary so that he's still here.
Damn.
That's my
Okay.
swap.
Okay. And you got to respect that there's no wrong answer, and I definitely like that answer. So, but
Wrestling
Rosh,
history is wrestling history. Bookers
yes,
have written that for years. Um, I'll save a life.
yeah, and you got to respect that. So, man, Rosh, it was great catching up with you. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you at, hit you up, talk to you on social media? You know, your merchandise, the floor is yours.
You can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. The handle's Rosh Dang It. It's been right below my face this whole time here. Um, I am on TeePublic. There's a link on all of my socials though to go right to my TeePublic page. I've got merch on there. I've got shirts, hoodies, magnets, phone covers, wall hangings, all kinds of weird crap. I do my own designs, so anything you can do to help support keeps me off the streets and on the road and in the ring and out of trouble for the most part. Greatly appreciated. Shoot me a message. Let me know you saw me on the podcast so I can let Josh know that people actually want to hear me. And I'll be
So,
coming to your town. Check me out. I've got all my dates listed constantly. I do nothing but plug my shows.
hey, I appreciate you sitting there and taking time and stopping by here on Future Stars Now. And, well, is there any way we could possibly get a part 2 with you down the road?
Absolutely. Just let me know where and when, and I'll make myself available for you.
Hey, no problems, man. Thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow, there you have it. We had the Mastodon. Man, this is what I love about Future Stars Now. This is where we take a look at the indie talent that is building their career to be mainstreamed on your MLW, AEW, Elevation, NXT, you name it, GCW, WWE, Impact, NWA. This is where we get to know them here. We follow them on their journey to get to the mainstream. So, man, I loved how, you know, Rosh was sitting there talking, and you could see that he stepped away, came back, stepped away, came back. It's just like Terry Funk says, you never ever leave pro wrestling. It will always find a way to pull you or suck you right back in. So, guys, this is what we have here. Thank you for stopping by on Future Stars Now, and check us out on FRM Pod every Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on twitch.tv/FRM Pod and Future Stars Now right here. So, guys, I am the Ritt. Take care and see you next week on Future Stars Now.